The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic displays flickered with images of devastation. 17 star systems had been reduced to rubble in the span of 3 rotations. The Crythian Empire and the Valoran Collective were locked in a conflict that threatened to consume the entire Outer Rim, and neither side showed any sign of backing down. Ambassador Ilara stood at the edge of the observation deck, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the diplomatic envoys argue in circles. She was the only human in a chamber filled with beings who towered over her. Beings with scales, feathers, and carapaces that could withstand environments that would kill her in seconds. Yet here she was, representing Earth, a world the galaxy still considered primitive, barely worthy of a council seat. "The human speaks wisdom we refuse to hear," came a rumbling voice from behind her. Ilara turned to find Ambassador Thexlar of the Crythian Empire, his obsidian scales gleaming under the chamber lights. His 4 eyes studied her with something between curiosity and contempt. "Your species has only been spacefaring for what, 200 of your years? What could you possibly understand about conflicts that span millennia?" Ilara met his gaze steadily. "I understand that pride kills just as efficiently as plasma cannons, Ambassador. And I understand that sometimes the solution isn't found in weapons or treaties, but in remembering what we're actually fighting for." Before Thexler could respond, the chamber's emergency alarms shrieked to life. The holographic displays dissolved, replaced by a single urgent message. "Breach in Sector 7, unauthorized life forms detected." The council erupted into chaos. Sector 7 housed the most sensitive areas of the station weapons systems, life support, and the treaty archives. An attack during peace talks would be catastrophic. Security forces mobilized instantly, but Ilara felt a cold certainty settle in her chest. This wasn't an attack. She'd been on the station for 6 weeks now, and she'd noticed something the others hadn't, something small, something that moved in the shadows. She broke away from the crowd and ran towards Sector 7, ignoring the protests of the security officers. Her instincts, honed by years of working in xenobiology before her diplomatic posting, told her she was right. The corridor to Sector 7 was in lockdown, blast doors sealed shut. But Ilara knew the maintenance passages. She'd explored them during sleepless nights, unable to rest in the artificial gravity. She slipped through a service hatch and crawled through the narrow tunnels, her breathing echoing in the confined space. When she emerged into Sector 7, she found them. 3 cubs, no larger than house cats, huddled in the corner of the weapons control room. Their fur was a deep midnight blue, streaked with silver, and their eyes glowed with an ethereal golden light. They trembled, clearly terrified by the alarms and the shouting that echoed through the walls. "Kiri," Ilara whispered, recognizing the smallest one. She'd seen Kiri before, glimpsed the cub sneaking through the observation deck late one night. Ilara had left out food-synthesized proteins that her research suggested might appeal to the species she suspected they were. The cub had taken the offering and disappeared, but Ilara had seen the intelligence in those golden eyes. The cubs weren't attacking. They were hiding. And then she saw what they were hiding from. Behind them, embedded in the wall, was a device she didn't recognize, but her scanner did. The readings made her blood run cold. It was a quantum cascade bomb, powerful enough to tear a hole in space-time itself. It would destroy the station and everything within a light-year radius. Someone had planted it during the peace talks, intending to blame the destruction on one side or the other, ensuring the war would never end. The cubs had found it first, and instead of fleeing, they'd stayed, their small bodies pressed against the wall as if trying to shield it or trying to protect something. Protect someone. Ilara's mind raced. She'd studied the species, the Lith-Ari, they were called in the ancient texts. Apex predators from a world destroyed in the last great convergence. They were thought to be extinct. But here they were, 3 tiny cubs who'd somehow survived, hiding on a station full of the species who'd failed to save their world, and they'd been watching her. "You knew," Ilara breathed. "You knew someone was going to try this." Kiri stepped forward, the smallest cub showing a courage that belied its size. The golden eyes met hers, and Ilara felt it a presence in her mind. Not words, but emotions. Protection. Warning. Trust. The cubs had been protecting her, the one being on the station who'd shown them kindness. They'd tracked the conspirators, found the bomb, and stayed to guard it until someone they trusted could help. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Security was breaching the blast doors. Ilara made her decision in a heartbeat. She activated her emergency beacon, broadcasting directly to the council. This is Ambassador Alara, stand down all forces. There is no attack, there's a bomb, and I'm disarming it. I need the council to see this. The next minutes were a blur. Under the watchful eyes of the entire Galactic Council, transmitted through her beacon, Alara carefully dismantled the quantum cascade device with guidance from the station's AI. The cub stayed close. Kiri pressed against her leg, lending her courage she didn't know she needed. When the device was neutralized, the investigation took mere hours. The conspirators, a radical faction that profited from the war, were identified and apprehended. The evidence was irrefutable. In the council chamber, as the Krithian Empire and Valorn Collective signed the peace accord, Ambassador Thexler approached Alara once more. "The Lith-Ari cubs," he said quietly. "We thought them lost. They chose to protect you, human. Why?" Alara looked down at Kiri, who sat at her feet, grooming a paw with complete nonchalance now that the danger had passed. "Maybe because I didn't see them as extinct relics or weapons. I saw them as scared children who needed help. You saved countless lives today, Ambassador." "No," Alara said, scratching behind Kiri's ears as the cub purred a sound like distant thunder. "They saved us. I just listened. The galaxy would remember this day as the moment the Outer Rim War ended. But Alara would remember it as the day 3 small cubs roared loud enough to shake the stars and proved that sometimes the fiercest protectors come in the smallest packages. And sometimes humanity's greatest strength isn't in weapons or words, but in recognizing the worth of those everyone else has forgotten.